Hello, world, and welcome to the Quick Kick Picks presented by Bros Talking Soccer. My name is Dave Knittel here with Christian at the Knittel household. Knittel Central coming to you live from a couch. Very professional here, Christian. You excited for MLS Match Week 8?
Well, I'm very excited to be on a couch somewhere, so that's very fun. And yeah, obviously very excited about MLS, just as I am every single week.
All right, good, because we got a full weekend of matches here. All 24 teams are playing, and it gets started Friday, April 19th with FC Cincinnati taking on Real Salt Lake, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Christian, what's going to happen in this one?
So FC Cincinnati have come out of the gates pretty strong. They've cooled off a little bit in the start to their season, but I still think that they have enough to get through this Real Salt Lake team right now, who just don't look that strong at the moment. They're right in the middle of the table, almost a little bit lower half, and FC Cincinnati is the same way in the East. I think the East is a little bit better than the West, other than probably...
I disagree, actually. Yeah. I think the West is stronger this year.
Maybe. I think it's a little bit more even than it's been in the past.
Fair enough.
The West might be a little bit stronger than I'm thinking about it, but Real Salt Lake are not as strong as FC Cincinnati, in my opinion. And the home advantage, I think, will be enough to get Cincinnati a 2-1 victory in this match.
Okay, fair enough. Cincinnati is winless in their last 3, and they're really struggling to score goals without Fernando Adi. They only have 1 goal scored, and that came against a heavily rotated SKC side a couple of weeks ago. Now, RSL is coming off their second victory of the season. They were fairly good in a home performance against Orlando. RSL has not traveled well on the year. They have not done well on the road. They only have 1 point earned in 4 matches and only 2 goals scored away from Rio Tinto. I think this one ultimately ends up as a 1-1 draw. Christian, anything else you want to add?
I just don't agree with you, I'm going to say. I think that FC Cincinnati gets it together, and this Real Salt Lake team just doesn't have enough defensively to hold them back. They score 2 goals, and yes, Real Salt Lake gets 1, but it's definitely not enough.
All right, fair enough. We will see what happens. We keep track of all of our performances, and I won last week. And I got a couple score predictions. The high-scoring games, 3-2. I predicted both of them, Christian.
Wow, very good, Dave.
All right, next match we got Toronto FC taking on Minnesota United, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Christian, what's going to happen in this one?
Toronto are definitely the stronger side in this game. It's pretty hands down. I think that just in Toronto, there's no chance for Minnesota United right now. I think Toronto have the quality all over their team, but specifically in the front, they just have way too much. They've obviously found a replacement for Giovinco in Pozuelo, right? That's his name? Yeah. And Josie has come out of the gates in his return, and he's just pounding the goals in right now, which is just very enlightening to see for a U.S. soccer fan.
Enlightening?
Yes.
Ooh, that's a fancy word.
And Michael Bradley seems to have rediscovered the form that made him a key part of the U.S. national team. So hopefully they keep improving, and Toronto easily gets through this one. I'm saying 3-1 in this match.
All right, fair enough. I'm also predicting 3-1 to Toronto. Toronto is coming off a loss last week to Seattle, but I wouldn't read too much into that. Seattle is probably one of the strongest teams out west, and I wouldn't get too upset if I'm a Toronto fan. Also, you already touched on it. Josie's banging in goals. Pozuelo's setting them up. That only means good things for Toronto FC fans moving forward. Meanwhile, Minnesota, on the other hand, they opened Allianz Field last week, high-scoring 3-3 draw against NYCFC. Their defense, I expected them to be much stronger, adding Ozzy Alonso and Iko Para. It hasn't worked out, and they've been giving up more goals than I would have expected. Their only clean sheet came against a really poor San Jose side in week 2. They haven't had clean sheets in a while, and so for that reason, I just think Toronto's high-powered attack prevails, and it also ends 3-1. Christian, you look like you have something else to add.
Well, they haven't had clean sheets in a while. They must be very dirty.
There you go. All right. Excellent work here. All right. We both predicted 3-1 to Toronto. Next match, we got LA Galaxy, last one on Friday, taking on the Houston Dynamo, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Christian, what do you think is going to happen here?
Well, after seeing LA and Zlatan just dominate the Union last week, right? Yeah. I don't know what's happening over here.
That's okay. It's getting in the way.
Okay. Wow, you really threw me off there.
It's okay. You got to power through. Sometimes this happens.
The Galaxy are just going to be too strong at the end of the day. I think Galaxy and Houston are both in the top 4 on the West right now. LA's in 3rd. Zlatan at home, just who can defend him in this league? Nobody that I can see. Who can defend him in the world other than maybe Van Dijk? But other than that, there's very few players that I've seen who can actually defend Zlatan when he's on his game. I think he's just too powerful. He's going to get multiple goals in this game. I'm predicting a 3-1 victory for LA.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I don't think the Union really challenged the LA Galaxy that much last week, and so yes, LA Galaxy looked comfortable, but the Union really didn't put up much of a fight. I think a lot of that had to do with the injury early to the Union, but ultimately the Galaxy, their midfield is really strong. They just added Giancarlo Gonzalez. I think he might have his transfer certificate in, and he's going to be playing in this one, and he'll add a lot of stability to that back line, which I think was an area of weakness for the Galaxy. I do think that the Dynamo are going to be a stiffer test for the Galaxy because Dynamo might have the best front three or most underrated front three in MLS. Not the best, but the most underrated one. Minota is clinical at center forward. Elise is an absolute monster, especially in one-on-one situations on the wing, and Kyoto can be dangerous as well as a third option. Houston, they're still undefeated, but they really haven't been tested this year. I think this is their first real test. They're on the road against a strong LA Galaxy side, and I'm excited by this matchup because I think it's going to tell us a lot about both teams. I don't know how much the Galaxy have been challenged either, so I think it's going to be a fun matchup, and it's going to be really, really interesting. I think ultimately it ends as an entertaining 2-2 draw.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, we got the same amount of goals, but in different directions there. All right.
Yeah, fun stuff. All right, now let's move on to Saturday, April 20th. Kicking things off, you have the Chicago Fire taking on the Colorado Rapids at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Chicago Fire. That's why I'm
Chicago.
laughing. Yeah,
a lot of sheets today.
I can't speak. Yeah, a lot of sheets. Christian, what's happening in this match?
Chicago wins this one. I'm just not even going to entertain the possibility that the Rapids are going to get anything from this game. They have come out very poorly in the start of their season, and it's really disheartening, I'm going to say, for Colorado fans because it looks like they're just going to die out this year, and it's not going to be a competitive match. Yeah.
Very morbid.
But the Fire have started decently well. They're right in the middle of the table. They haven't done great, but they haven't done poorly. At home, I have no doubts that they get the result against Colorado Rapids. And CJ Sapong, shockingly, since his move to Chicago, has just been scoring goals and has been really involved in a lot of their attacks. And we saw it when he was with the Union last year and the past couple of years. Even when he wasn't providing the goals, he is involved in a lot of the attacks and the hold-up play. And he's continued that and has added goals to his game this year. I still am not sold on Schweinsteiger at center back. I think that's a big mistake. He has no pace, and he could just be a disaster back there. But I think the Colorado's attack is just it's non-existent. It's really not going to cause the Fire much of an issue. I'm saying a 2-1 victory in this game for Chicago.
All right, I'm with you on the 2-1 Chicago victory. I do think Kai Kamara could...
Did I say 2-1?
Yeah.
I meant 2-0. That's
okay.
Weird. Okay.
Right, well, that's probably because you're looking at my...
I really didn't even see it.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. 2-1 to the Fire is what I'm predicting. I think Kai Kamara ends up getting a goal because he is dangerous for the Colorado attack, but they don't really have much else. Chicago is undefeated in their last 3 matches, and they appear to have settled on a formation that they can at least get used to. I agree with you. I'm not sold on Schweinsteiger at center back, but he's at least on the field. He seems to be happy. Gaetan is getting minutes. They have Sapong and Nikolic kind of playing in a 4-4-2. You know, they're working off each other up top, and I really like Frankowski on the wing. So at least Chicago has settled on some sort of formation. I think that's going to be good for them. Ultimately, though, you already touched on it. Colorado, they appear to be getting worse. Still no wins on the season. Only 2 draws, lost 3 straight. And ultimately, Chicago Fire gets a 2-1 win. Next match we got is the Philadelphia Union taking on the Montreal Impact, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. Christian, what's going to happen in this one?
Well, we're going. Yeah.
Oh, my God. It's going to be so much fun.
We're going to be at this game, and we're actually bringing quite the crew with us to tailgate and go to the game. Hopefully, the rain holds up, and it's a fun match. Because
squad deep.
I think 100%, Dave. Yep. We're going to be playing games, getting drunk.
Yep.
Not too drunk, though. So we're going to hope for a Union victory in this one, obviously. But I see a Union victory in this one. I think Montreal has started the season much better than I expected, and probably better than a lot of people expected with their squad. They had a lot of away games so far this year, right? They've only had 1 home match, and that was last week. And the Piatti, he's back this week, correct?
I don't think so. So
okay.
I'm not certain about him, and he's missed 4 straight games with a knee injury, and so even if he's healthy, I doubt he starts in this one. He may come off the bench, but I doubt he starts.
So he is very, very important to their team, and without him, they have done decently well, but he is so significant to them in attack that without him, I'm not worried about them, even though Austin Trusty is out for the Union at the back. Is Fabian, how long is he out?
1 to 2 weeks. So he's definitely
out this match as well. So it is going to be rotations for both teams, missing a lot of key players. But I still think the Union at home have just are going to be able to see this one out, and it's going to be a very closely contested match. Hopefully it's not as heart-pounding as the last time the Union were at home, but I see a 2-1 victory again for the Union.
Yeah, Montreal seems to always give the Union trouble. I'm not sure what that's about, and it could just be me misremembering things. But Montreal, god damn it, seems to always give the Union trouble. I had a lot I wanted to say here, but we're getting short on time. The U have they conceded 2 first half goals last week, and the LA Galaxy, I think, just really threw them off their game plan, especially with Fabian going down with the injury. I did like what I saw from Montero in that match, and I'm expecting him to play as a number 8 with Aronson filling in for Marco Fabian. I would expect both Akam and Fafa to come back in as striker. I didn't think Burke played too well. I'm predicting a 2-0 Union victory here, so that's what I'm going with. Christian, anything else to add? All right, next match we got Orlando City taking on the Vancouver Whitecaps. That's upside down. Vancouver Whitecaps, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am off the rails. Christian, what's going to happen in this one?
I'm seeing an Orlando win here. I think that they're just slightly better than Vancouver is right now. I'm just not sold on that Vancouver team right now.
Even though they beat LAFC midweek?
Even though they beat LAFC midweek, I still don't think that they are the complete package. LAFC, yes, I still think they are the best team in the league, but I mean, now people see that they do have a weakness and can be beaten, which is a good thing for the rest of the league. Vancouver, just on the road, I just don't see them getting through this. Nani, I think, is going to be a key player again for Orlando. He's really got to keep upping his game and get more and more involved in the match. But I think that this is a Orlando victory. I think it's going to be really, really tight, and I don't actually expect a lot of goals in this game. I'm seeing a 1-0 victory for Orlando here.
Okay, I have the exact opposite. I have a 4-2 Orlando victory. I'm seeing a lot of goals in this one. Orlando City, they did lose last weekend against RSL, but Nani got another goal. That's 3 goals for him in 2 matches. It's good to get him going and flowing into their offense. I've already said multiple times in these videos in the past, I love that Orlando just doesn't have a quit in them. They seem to just be fighting it out. That's going to bode well for them over the course of the season. Speaking of fight and determination, after a rough start, the Whitecaps came back, fought, got a result midweek against LAFC on Wednesday. Now, LAFC had a lot of lineup rotations, but I was impressed with them. You something to add, or are you just staring at me? Okay.
No, I was rubbing my hands, and I realized it was near the mic. So
okay, it's okay. It was. I thought Inbom Huang had a great performance. He looks to be a great signing for them in the middle of the park. It's tough for Vancouver. This is really tough on them from a schedule perspective. They had a midweek match, and then they took basically the longest flight you can take in MLS from Vancouver down to Orlando to play Saturday afternoon. It's not even like they gave them Saturday night or later on Sunday. So I think all of that is ultimately going to add up. There's going to be some tired legs out there, and that's why there's so many goals in this one. 4-2 to Orlando. Anything else you want to add?
Nope.
Next match we have is Atlanta United taking on FC Dallas, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. Christian, what do you think is going to happen here?
When is Atlanta going to look like the Atlanta from last year? It's got to come sometime soon. I don't understand what's going on down there. They were arguably the best team we've ever seen, one of them at least, in MLS, and they just they just do not look like the same team. And I understand they lost their coach and best player, but they still have a lot of the key pieces. And I think that this is a week where they kind of announce themselves again. FC Dallas are a very, very talented squad, are doing pretty well in the West. I think they're in 5th place right now. Atlanta really struggling badly in 10th place in the East, but it's still early in the season, and you see a lot of teams move around a lot. I see Atlanta definitely roaring back. Maybe it's not this week. I think it is, personally, the week that they start to really climb back into the discussions for playoffs and start challenging again. I see Atlanta winning this game 2-1. It's going to be very, very close, but Atlanta just has enough quality in the end and starts to get their ideas together.
Yeah, and I think we saw that a bit last week with them getting a 2-0 road victory on the road against the Revs. They had 2 weeks to prepare for that, and I think all of that boded well for them. Bodes well for them. I can't speak this week. It was the Revs, so this is going to tell us a lot more because FC Dallas is definitely a stronger side than that. It is encouraging to see Barco getting on the score sheet because he didn't have a great year last year. He didn't get off to the best of starts, and I know he didn't start the match against the Revs, but he had 2 goals, and again, it's got to be encouraging for Atlanta to see that, especially having another scoring option as Pity Martinez starts to get more integrated in the side because he's not producing at the level of expenditure that they paid for him. FC Dallas, meanwhile, won at home last week against really struggling Portland side. All the suspended players that they had against Philly were reintegrated into the side, and I said last week, it was interesting to follow that to see if they would be able to make an impact. They were. No issues there. Got the victory. And so I think this is another one similar to the LA Galaxy and Dynamo match where we really find out a lot about both teams here. And so ultimately I'm predicting a 2-1 Atlanta victory like you said, but I think this is going to tell us a lot about both sides. Anything else?
Nope.
Next match we have is Columbus Crew taking on the Portland Timbers. That is taking place at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Christian, what's going to happen here?
Well, it's going down.
For real.
Yelling timber.
Yep.
So, in other words, I'm going to say timber to the Timbers because they just are falling and falling and falling.
Puns on
so,
puns on puns.
yeah, they look lost. These are two teams that were in the playoffs last year, correct?
Correct.
And the Timbers won the West, correct?
Correct.
Yes. What has happened to them, I will never know. The same thing's happening to Atlanta. They need to figure it out. Columbus.
Atlanta, there's at least an explanation. Portland, it's the road trip and a couple of unfortunate injuries, suspensions, but
it's still unacceptable
yeah.
what's going on there. They're just conceding goals for fun, it looks like, and I don't think they're having fun doing it, but it looks like they are with how many they concede. Okay. So Columbus are one of the best teams in MLS right now. I don't really know why, because I don't think that they have that much quality.
They have a great defense. They're giving up less than a goal in a game.
Yeah, and that obviously does make a difference in any league in the world. But I still think that Columbus are definitely, by far, the team that's going to win this game. It's not even close. I'm predicting a 4-0 victory just because Portland are that shaky defensively, and on the road is just going to be worse. Columbus really haven't looked great in attack, but I think that they are just that much better than Portland right now.
Yeah, and I don't think Columbus has enough offensive firepower to get to 4-0, but I'm predicting a multi-goal Columbus victory as well as keeping a clean sheet. So I'm predicting 2-0 for Columbus. They lost last week, 1-0 to Montreal, but continue to be extremely organized defensively. Already touched on it that they're one of the best defensive teams. They are the best defensive team in MLS. They've won 3 out of 4 matches at home and drew the other one, so they haven't lost at home. Portland, meanwhile, continue to have issues. They lost to FC Dallas on the road for their 5th consecutive loss. They have 1 point on the season so far, and they're conceding 2.8 goals per match. All that does not bode well for the Timbers, and like I said, I agreed with Christian, multi-goal Columbus Crew victory, although not predicting quite as much. 2-0. Anything else you want to add?
Nope.
Next match, we have the New England Revolution taking on the New York Red Bulls. Two sides kind of struggling right now. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Christian, what do you think is going to happen in this one?
Oh, boy. The Revolution just... I have no words to describe them anymore. They look lost, almost like the Timbers. They just really don't seem to have a system. And that being said, the Red Bulls really don't look good either. And
they at least have a system.
They do have a system that has been in place for a long, long time now. Their press and they do have a system at least. They're a much better team technically, and just player for player, you've got to say the Red Bulls have the advantage. They are going to be without Kaku, who obviously,
for a while,
we saw.
They're going to be without him.
We saw what he did and kicking the ball at a fan. Despicable, but we'll move along from that one. I think the Red Bulls still have enough quality to get through this match. I think it will be pretty tight just because the Red Bulls have been struggling with most of their games so far. It's going to be a 2-1 victory on the road, but it's going to be an ugly match.
So I can see it going one of two ways. I could see it going super ugly, ending up 0-0, or I could see it being one of those matches where they both just sort of like break out and just sort of chaos happens and ultimately ends up with like a 3-3. I think this ends up as a draw either way because both these sides are really struggling, but it could go either two very different ways, and that's what I think is ultimately going to happen. BWP, he only has 1 goal on the season for the Red Bulls, and the team is only averaging a little more than 1 goal per game. They really need to get the offense going, and being without Kaku is really going to hurt them. Rev's side of things, they'll need to try to keep building. Carlos Hill is really their main attacking hub, and they need some other people to start contributing. Some of the forwards, whether it's Pinilla, Agadello, Bunbury, somebody needs to start scoring goals for them because they're dead bottom of the East and they're averaging 0.7 goals scored per game. That's not a recipe for success. Newsflash, that's not good. I see this, like I said, draw and ultimately either terrible watch or exciting just because there's lots of goals. So draw either way. Christian, anything else you want to add?
Nope.
Last match on Saturday, we have the San Jose Earthquakes taking on Sporting Kansas City, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Kansas City, not in Cincinnati. Like I said last week, Christian, What's happening in this one?
Well, thanks for hosting San Jose, but you got nothing from this one. Sporting are too strong of a squad. They haven't really been lighting it up, but they have had games where they just have dominated, such as the Montreal match. Yeah, it's just not enough, though. San Jose, they are not good enough right now, and that is just the way that it is. If you look at their talent, they might be the weakest team in all of MLS. Just on paper, if you just look at their team.
Yeah, them and the Revs, I think, are neck and neck in the
probably. And
talent race.
Yes, San Jose, I can't see them getting anything from this match. I think it's actually going to be more of a blowout on the road for Kansas City in like a 3-0 or 3-1 victory. And Buzio just really has impressed me. I saw him for the first time last week, and the kid just keeps getting into positions to score, and he looks very, very talented.
It's really impressive for them. Now, San Jose, they're playing their 5th home match in 8 matches to start the season. They've really only been able to get 3 points through beating a really poor Portland side. They lost last week in Houston.
Well, they're playing another poor side.
No. I'm talking
you're talking about San Jose.
Okay,
Sorry.
San Jose, meanwhile, they lost in Houston last week, and I correctly predicted that their man-marking system did not work well against Albert Elise in Houston. Kept it close, though, and deserved props for sort of improving from that perspective. Unfortunately, SKC is coming to Avaya, and I believe that they're probably the 3rd best team in the West. Vermees, he's going to have his team drilled, prepared for that system, and I believe they're going to be able to break down the Quakes. It's going to be interesting to see if Busio gets a start, or if he's going to be coming off the bench. Again, he's 16. Be interesting to just see how Vermees sort of manages his time there. But I'm projecting a 1-0 SKC road win. SKC, if they're playing on a neutral site or at SKC, I think it's a huge blowout. But because it's in San Jose, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt that the Earthquake can keep it close, but ultimately SKC gets the win. Anything else you want to add?
Nope.
Moving to Sunday, April 21st, Easter, DC United is taking on New York City FC, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Christian, what do you think is going to happen
Well, happy
here?
Easter, everyone. DC wins this game, and it's
very matter of fact.
That's it. New York City, again, just another team that just doesn't look like they have it this season. They are missing, obviously, David Villa and Patrick Vieira, as I will mention every week until they get it together. And DC are just a much better team. All around, every position, I want to say they are the better team. And honestly, in every single position on the field, Wayne Rooney obviously is just in incredible form for DC, his best MLS form that we've seen. And it's just going to be too much. DC wins this game pretty comfortably. I'm going to guess a 2-0 victory here.
Yeah, I'm in agreement on the 2-0 victory to DC United. That's fine. We can agree on things.
I don't like it.
It's okay.
I don't want to.
It's okay. DC, top of the East. Meanwhile, NYCFC, they're languishing down near the bottom of the table. NYCFC, still no wins on this season. They only have the 1 loss, but they have 5 draws. They keep the matches close, but they can't find a way to actually get a win. Sean Johnson, the own goal from last week, I'm not sure if you saw it, but that was one of the funniest own goals I've ever seen. He just dribbled it into his own net. Hopefully that doesn't mess with him psychologically from an NYCFC perspective, but it'll be interesting to just follow that. I don't see this week being a week that NYCFC gets their first result. DC, like you said, I think they're just stronger all over the pitch, and ultimately for that reason, I think DC gets a 2-0 victory here. An eye to keep out for Chris Durkin. I said that really weird, but keep an eye out for Chris Durkin. He got his first...
An eye you must keep out for Chris Durkin.
Speaking in riddles now, he got his first professional goal last week. He's got a ton of hype. I think he can be a little bit more dynamic than some of the other center midfielders that they have there. They have Canals and Moreno, who are very strong for DC, but Durkin can, I think, even be better, and so it'll be interesting to just watch his development because he's getting a ton of hype. Ultimately, DC gets a 2-0 home victory. Anything else you want to add?
Nope.
Last match of the weekend, probably the best match of the weekend as well. LAFC taking on the Seattle Sounders, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Christian, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, let me correct you. This is the best match of the weekend. It is not probably. It is what it is.
Thank you.
And LAFC are just, both teams actually are just incredible right now to watch. I think LAFC does squeak through this one, and it's going to be really, really, really close. But just in the end, LAFC gets a 2-1 victory here. It is going to be high-flying. It's going to be attacking. It might not be all the goals that we're expecting, but both teams know how to create, and both teams have a pretty sturdy defense as
Yeah.
well. So I think 2-1 victory is probably what we're looking at. And LAFC just are led by Carlos Vela. He'll just get the moment when they need him, and he'll be the guy again.
That's fair. That's a fair point. I think these are two of the three strongest sides in the league. I think without question. I mean, maybe you could argue, 2 of 4, but they're supremely talented here. LAFC did suffer their first loss midweek, and I think ultimately because they had that midweek match on the road, I think that's why this ultimately ends as a 2-2 draw. Now, Bob Bradley rotated his lineup quite a bit in that match, so there was no Walker Zimmerman, no Beitashour or Harvey on defense, and the midfield was heavily rotated, but LAFC did still roll out their top 3 attackers, and they weren't able to score on the road for Vancouver. They're still supremely talented, and they'll get goals the rest of the year, but I don't know if that's a worrying sign, but just something to keep an eye out for. Meanwhile, Seattle did not have a midweek match, and I think because of that, they're going to be a little bit fresher in this one. Raul Ruidiaz is back in training. I don't know if he's going to start, but he's someone who I really like at center forward, and Will Bruin might have an injury at center forward, so, Jordan Morris can play there, but if Ruidiaz is back, that'll be a huge boost to Seattle. I think he's just so dynamic in there. Seattle, they're also solid all over the park, defense, midfield. We kind of talked about it with DC, but LAFC and Seattle, all of them are kind of have that. And so in these heavyweight matchups, I always skew a little bit more towards favoring the home team. But because LAFC had that midweek match on the road, it ultimately ends as a 2-2 draw. Anything else you want to add?
Nope.
Great. That brings us to the end of MLS Match Week 8 Quick Kick Picks, presented by Bros Talking Soccer. I can speak so good. Christian, anything you want to add in closing?
This is Match Week 8. Is what you just said.
Match Week 8. Yeah, so thank you for tuning in and watching Quick Kick Picks presented by Bros Talking Soccer. Go enjoy MLS this weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.